City Council meeting today, Monday, July 24th. I now call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
District 1, Councilmember Casey.
Present.
District 2, Councilmember Vieira.
Here.
District 4, Councilmember Martinez.
Present.
District 3, Vice Mayor Silvera.
Here.
Mayor Lopez.
Here. Today, we have an invocation by Jerry Swain from the New Vision Christian Center. Are you here, sir? Welcome. Please step up to the podium, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for all the many blessings that you've given us. Thank you for our mayor and all our city council members. Dear Lord, we ask that you lead and guide this meeting tonight. Let them have the wisdom of Solomon during the time of decisions that will be made. Let the mind of Christ be in them and help them to follow your direction. We also ask, Lord, that you would bless all of our city's first responders and keep them safe as they are keeping our city safe. Thank you, Lord, for we know you hear and answer our prayers. Be with us this night in the wonderful name of Jesus.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Moving on to presentations. Today, we have a presentation and a proclamation, and we will begin with certificates for Sky's the Limit artists. These are the T-shirt artist winner, Alana and Diego, who are here today. Are you guys here? Please step up to the podium, please. Also, Dan from the school district is here as well. I'll be over there right now. So being that Alana is not here, Diego, you are the marketing artist winner of 2023 Sky's the Limit. Congratulations on being the marketing artist winner for 2023 Sky's the Limit Hot Air Balloon Festival. Your artistic talent is an inspiration, and the City of Ceres wishes you the best in your future. I believe there was over 240 applicants, right? First time. So this is awesome. So this certificate, Diego, is for you. Congratulations. On top of that, you're receiving a gift card, $50. Dan, I'll give this to you. And this is what you also received the same thing. Oh, no.
He says I can speak. I just want to, on behalf of the school district and all of the students who submitted art, we just want to thank the City of Ceres and City Council. This was incredible just to be involved in this year, and we just look to support as a school district and expand. The idea to involve the students in the artwork came out of one of the meetings that we had preparing, and we jumped on it. And so we're just going to continue to look for ways to be involved as a school district and support the city's efforts and in all of the events around the city. And just, we have amazing talented kids, so we want to involve them. And just again, want to just thank in general the fantastic relationship that we have with the City of Ceres is stellar, and just love being able to come here and honor our students. Thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you very much. Diego, the floor is yours if you want to say anything. You think you're good? Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Diego. Moving on to this week is National Health Center Week. And today we have Golden Valley Health Center Director of Government and Community Affairs, Yamlet Yoladoli. I always mess up your last name. My apologies. I'm coming over there. and bear with me, the proclamation is longer than normal. Declaring August 6th to the 12th as National Health Center Week, whereas over 50 years, the community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable, comprehensive primary and prenatal health care in our nation's medically underserved communities, delivering value to and having a significant impact on America's healthcare system. And whereas the country's largest primary care network, community health centers, are the healthcare of home for over 30 million Americans in over 14,000 communities across the nation. 1 in every 11 people in the United States gets their care at community healthcare centers. And whereas community healthcare centers are a critical element of the healthcare system, serving rural, suburban, frontier, and urban populations, and often providing the only accessible and dependable source of primary care in communities nationwide. Communities health centers serves 1 every 5 residents of rural areas. And whereas community health centers serve as a beacon of essential resources and support in the face of disasters and pandemics, and will continue to respond quickly to care for America's most vulnerable and underserved communities. Community health centers have administered over 22 million COVID-19 tests and over 24 million vaccines to date. Every day, community healthcare centers develop new approaches to interrogating a wide range of services beyond primary care, including oral health, vision, behavioral health, and pharmacy services to meet the needs and challenges of their communities. Healthcare centers have more than doubled their behavioral health workforce in the last decade to meet America's growing need for behavioral health services. Community health centers are governed by the patient majority boards, ensuring the patients are engaged in their own healthcare decisions. Community healthcare centers are locally owned and operated by small businesses that serve a critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating 85 billion in economic activity and more than 37 billion in labor income in some of the country's most economically distressed communities. Community healthcare nationally supports more than 500,000 direct and indirect jobs, including physicians, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, licensed family therapists, and certified nurses, midwives, who work as a part of multidisciplinary clinical teams designed to treat the whole patient. And the community health center healthcare center model continues to prove an effective means of overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geographic income and insurance status, improving health outcomes, and reducing healthcare system cost. Community healthcare centers reduce overall cost of cares by helping manage patients' chronic conditions, which keeps them out of more expensive healthcare settings like hospital emergency rooms. Community healthcare centers are on the front lines of emerging healthcare crisis, providing access to care for our nation's veterans, addressing opioid epidemic, responding to public health threats in the wake of natural disasters. Community health centers operate close to 1,000 mobile units, providing accessible health services in hundreds of rural and urban communities. National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to celebrate Golden Valley Health Centers at any of their 45 locations. Their dedicated staff, board members, patients, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth since the first Golden Valley Health Center opened their doors more than 50 years ago. During National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's community health centers and their vital role in shaping the past, present, and future of America's system. Now, therefore, I, Javier Lopez, Mayor of the City of Ceres, on behalf of the City Council, Vice Mayor Brett Silvera, Councilmember James Casey, Rosalinda L. Vieira, and Daniel M. Martinez, do hereby proclaim August 6th through the 12th, 2023 as National Health Center Week. And I encourage all Americans to take part in this week by visiting their local healthcare center and celebrating the important partnership between America's community health centers and the communities.
Thank you so much for this honor, Mayor, City of Ceres council members. We're really delighted to have 3 locations here with various different, not just the primary care, but dental and different specialties. And we will continue to definitely serve the people of Ceres with dignity and pride. So thank you very much, and visit us during National Health Center Week.
Yeah, you're fine. Are we good? Okay. Just wanted to make sure we're good. Thank you very much once again. Moving on to citizens communication. We got that microphone good? All right. While the city council welcomes and encourages participation in city council meetings, adopt rules allows no more than 5 minutes. Resolution number 2007-106 for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the city council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the city council from taking any action on any matters which is not posted on the agenda, unless it is determined to be an emergency by the city council. Citizens are entitled to address the city council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. Anyone wishing to address the city council must adhere to the rules of decorum. The rules of decorum are posted outside the chamber's doors. We have 2 yellow requests for citizens communication, and I will be asking afterwards if there's anybody else in the room that would like to speak. The first person that I have is Nason Sanchez. Please step up to the podium.
My name is Nason Sanchez. I'm a City of Ceres resident. Please allow me to read this excerpt. This day is a community building campaign that promotes community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our city a safer, more caring place to live. And it is to enhance the relationship between neighbors while bringing back a true sense of community under positive circumstances amongst the neighborhood, the community leaders, and our law enforcement. This day that I'm speaking of is known as National Night Out. Me and my wife, we decided to spearhead this event along with some other neighbors. Not necessarily because the police department owes us a favor, nor do we owe them a favor. But it is evident, no one can argue against it, that there is a division that's clear as day between the community and our law enforcement. At times, when an individual, when an officer steps out of the box of what is law-abiding, the blunt force is a whole department, not just that officer. It doesn't happen, it doesn't matter where it happens. Here in our own town, across the community, in another state, in the nation, but our police department and the whole body receives the negativity. We've seen it over and over. So that's the reason I felt it was time to spearhead this event. Once the walls, once the flow starts becoming more better and more positive, something happens, back to square one. So I want to invite our dignitaries, our mayor that is committed. I thank you for that. Councilwoman Vieira, I thank you for that as well, to pledge to come up and join us. Chief, I spoke to your watch commander, Valencia. He has committed to send somebody as well. Our fire chief, I spoke right there, just down the block, Captain Sperry, I believe, and he has committed to show up. We want to do this for the community. We want to set the pace, and we want to represent and let everybody know that the City of Ceres residents still supports our community leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Nason. Appreciate it. Mr. Donoso, you have a general citizens comment. You can step up to the podium, please. We'll have somebody go grab the document, please. What is this for?
There's 2 items, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
One is Demily Alatorre Service Act. That is the Bilingual Service Act that every state or city or county that receive state funds has to do the translation, interpretation, and the request of the community or any member that lack or limit English proficiency. And that's a mandate from the state if you receive state money. The second one is the Executive Order 13166. They say under the Justice Department, they have to be implemented under the limit English proficiency if you receive federal funds. And I know that you receive federal funds and the state funds. That means that every department that you entitled and receive state and funding fund must be in compliance with executive order and the Emily Alatorre Service Bilingual Act. One example is before I come into the office, I see the recreation information in regard to the seniors activities. And you don't have none in Spanish. I believe that this community have at least close to 35 to 40% Mexican American Latino, and from that 35 to 40%, very close to 25 to 30% in monolingual. So you entitled in obligation to be accountable to the bilingual services to this department. And any information that you have for the community has to be in whatever language, over 5% of the population has to be served under that language. In this case, is the Mexican American, and you have maybe Portuguese, Asian American, whatever is in the percentage of 5%. That's a mandate. So thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. and
Thank you very
members of the
much.
City Council. Thank you.
And just so you know, we actually have some literature in Spanish that we have been handing out to people. So I believe the Parks and Recs Department had some stuff in Spanish at some point, and maybe there just wasn't any available when you were there. So we'll make sure that that gets
Thank you,
taken care of.
sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Is there anybody that would like to speak outside of the yellow cards? Ma'am, please step up and state your name first and last.
Good evening, Debbie Martinez. I represent community as well. Good evening, Mayor Lopez, the members of the council, members of the law enforcement, and members of the community. I too represent community. I wear 5 hats in this community. Here in Ceres, I'm in 28 districts, 3 counties. I represent the families under the umbrella of We Are La Raza Parents Union, and I support what my brother Nelson is saying here. Mayor, that was the phone call I registered to you today was for the National Night Out. And I'm pushing district to commit to the city, and I'm asking you, the mayor, to commit to the districts, because it's not only the adults that we have to integrate, but we also have to integrate the children. And then I noticed on your agenda that it says something about applicants for military. I'm all for it. But here it is. I'm asking that the council and the mayor look into the bogus military school that sits in your own backyard. So before we can promote the realness of military for our children that are actually going into the military force, we need to shut down that school to prison pipeline, which is that bogus military school where our children are headed. So it's a 2-part thing here. We need to open up this community to better serve our population, which is the Hispanics. But then again, when they go to school, we also have SROs over there. So we want to make sure that the playing field is even for children and families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Anybody else wishing to speak? No, so you've already had your 5 minutes. Do you have some?
What it is, I just want to go ahead, if it's okay to leave this with the county.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have our staff grab that. Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Please step up to the podium. Oh, would you be so kind as to let her speak first, Mr. Yeakley? Ma'am, go ahead. This is for non-agenda items. That means that citizens communications for, oh, then never mind, sir. It's okay, it's okay.
Uniquely serious. Recently, they had Balloon Festival over in off of Hatch Road there. I happened to have a conversation with Joey Chavez and through some of his, I don't know what you call it, but anyway, he got some money that will help out with the banner program. Some people don't like it, the military banner program, which we see on 4th Street. And some of the families hopefully will want those up again. I think he's sending stuff out or making calls to the previous families. This gentleman, and he does quite a few different things, Joey Chavez with the Parks and Recreations. I don't know where he gets all the damn energy, but people should take notice of him. He's always there to help, no matter what it is. And I commend him for helping out on that small program we have for the banner program for the military veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else who would like to speak? Please step up to the podium, sir. State your name. Oh, it's Mr. Juan Alanis. You're undercover. How you doing, sir?
Good, Mr. Mayor, I just want to let you guys know I'm here. Juan Alanis, resident of Modesto. Sorry, but you guys are my district. I'm your assembly member. Want to let you guys know I'm here. Hopefully I'll be making some more appearances within the next month. We're out of session for a while and we return August 14th. So we'll be back up in Sacramento then. But I welcome any concerns, any questions that anybody may have. Please reach out to my office, reach out to me. I'll be here throughout the meeting. If you guys want to ask questions afterwards and having me.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Appreciate your time. Is there anybody else who would like to come up and speak? Is there any hands raised on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
This will be the last call for public communications. Seeing no hands. Moving on, is there any emails or anything that have been submitted?
There were no emails received.
Citizens Communications is now closed. No appointments and boards. Is there any conflicts of interest? Or move on to the consent calendar? The council? Is that the item that you're referring to? Is that on the consent calendar? Okay. All matters listed on the consent calendar consider routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or public for special consideration. Otherwise, the recommendations of staff will be acted upon by a roll call vote. Is there any council members that would like to pull consent item? Rosalinda?
Or comment or question on 5 and 9.
So pull 5 and 9. 5 and 9. Other council members that would like to pull any other items? Any citizens that would like to pull any items? Anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Bring this back for a motion.
Make a motion to approve consent item calendars 1 through 4 and 6 through 8.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Casey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
passes 5-0.
Item number 5. General correspondence information only. Ms. Vieira.
I had a couple of questions. I think they quite got answered. I guess regarding the vandalism on page 63, regarding the vandalism cost and repairs, I saw there was a comment in there. I believe it was 6,200, 4,200. I have notes written on there. I was just wondering if there was any special factors or contributing factors, and if anything was caught on video, or if there were any areas away from the cameras, or if there's other issues that may contributing to the increased cost of the vandalism, repair, and graffiti at the location cited in the.
Ms. Vieira, what department is that? That be parks?
It's page 63 of the packet.
Well, the reason for the vandalism, I mean, it could be a sprinkler house that's been knocked down, or it could be a park structure that has been vandalized or broken down in pieces. So it could be a number, I mean, it could be a number of items that could be vandalized. I mean, I don't have the sheet number on me, but I do have the reports in front of me that
Okay, let me. It looks like it was prepared by you, Sam. I had to
Yes.
find, I had to get to that
yeah,
package.
yes, but could you just give me a
And it
little
says total
directions?
graffiti and repair costs 4,200 for the month of May alone. So I was just wondering if there was any contributing factors, since we should have cameras now, I believe, at all the parks. And is it just a matter of not having
Well,
enough? or-
A lot of times the graffiti happens inside the restrooms. So
Okay, that was I was just kind of wondering if there was any contributing factors like increased activities, or is it because more people are outdoors and so they're tripping on the fires or on the, sprinkler heads or that kind of thing?
I mean, kids, they go around the park and they start, if they see sprinkler heads being popped up, they start knocking it down, or it could be a tree that they knock down. We have a graffiti issues inside the restrooms most of the time. But if there's anything visible on the outside, we definitely will make a note of it and we'll go back and review through our security cameras and find out exactly who it is. But at the same time, I mean, we do, I mean, you look at the person, but we don't know exactly who it is, and if that specific person will come back or not. So that could be a challenge.
Okay, I just didn't know if there was anything other going on in the city that we should be concerned or address.
Is there anybody that would like to speak on this item? Anybody on Zoom?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Bring this item back to the council for motion.
Make a motion to approve consent calendar item number 5.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to resolution number 2023, approving the contract with Capital Advocacy Partners and Grant Writing Services and authorizing the interim city manager to execute the agreement. Rosalinda?
Where to start on this one? I just kind of want to confirm, it looked like the contract was for $5,600 a month just to advocate for this city and $185 an hour to write a grant, plus the page fees with no guarantee. And it looked like it was a guarantee of $7,500 to $12,000 a year with a minimum $185 an hour per page fee, with no cost recovery. So I just want to confirm that I was reading the contract correct, because and did we somehow already budget for this amount of money somewhere? Because I'm just trying to figure out what we're coming up with. Amount of money to advocate for the city when going and meeting with our elected officials. They're here in the audience tonight. We're up here, they're going to Sacramento here in a few weeks. So that's why I'm just trying to figure out why or how this money's coming from.
So in the staff report, the money's coming from the police department, public works, sewer and water area, and also recreation department. That's where Dana de Beaumont and Advocacy Capital Partners writes their grants for mainly. And their success rate is around 95% for federal grants. She's 100% so far in state grants as she started writing. In the staff report, you can see, other cities have paid $30,000 for a $700,000 fire truck through FEMA. She was able to get information to city manager regarding that there's going to be additional monies that Congress was going to let go of. And so that city was able to acquire basically $2 million for a 1 million gallon water tank and another $600,000, I believe, for a completion of a loop line. So her skills are quite up there. The advocacy part is that she's based out of Washington, DC, and she sends out a weekly newsletter about all the upcoming grants and what Congress is doing and what the tone is within this system. And so she reaches out and says, these are grants that are available. Talk to your staff, your department heads, see which ones you think would fit for the city, and we'll go after those after careful consideration to make sure we can cover all the bases to make it possible. So that's why she's only takes a select few of cities to move forward with. That she's not open to just anybody, such as some other grant writing systems, but she does have a very select cities that she writes for. And like I said, she has a 95% success rate. She is on the call right now if you have any additional questions for her directly. And as far as the contract, the 185 is if you want to pay by the page or per the hour. It's actually 7,500 for the different grants variations, or if they go for all inclusive.
Okay, because I read it different, because on page 120, it said 7,500, 12,500 in addition to the $185 an hour and the page fee.
If you go by individual pages, that you can go by 1 to 10, or you can do by page.
Some of these can be quite, just having write grants in the past, you know, how labor intensive they can be, both writing and then the follow-up paperwork.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm just, that can balloon very quickly. And that, I guess my concern is how much did we budget? And did we budget the full amount? Not that it's not a great idea. I'm just more concerned about the financial and spending.
The money's covered, but it's already been budgeted. So that's why we're taking the money out of those 3 locations. It's already budgeted for, and that's where the grants are going to be targeted.
To follow up on Councilperson, there's question and concern. So the way I read it is it's $5,600 for 12. And then the P, I don't know where, I didn't see the 85 an hour, but I see the fee after that is to the first grant up to 10 pages is $7,500. And then is it mentioned in there the second grant?
That's basically the same price also.
I saw this.
10 or 12 to, or 10 to 19 or 20. Usually federal grants.
So I understand that, she has track record, or the company rather has a track record of being successful. My concern, along with Councilperson Vieira's financial impact to the city. So what, after 7 months, 8 months, how soon should we expect a grant?
Well, you have to remember, federal government doesn't, the fiscal year doesn't start till October 1st. So right after that is when we can. State grants we can start looking at right now. So you have to look at what grant fits the need. So I'll give you an example. A city I'm familiar with is they're working for. They were looking for grants and $2.5 million grant. Hopefully do the landscape.
So, we're not a city of, 100,000, 250,000. The $5,600 is going to. He's going to solicit grants, make proposals to the city manager. Grants are available, back to the department heads, back to the council. Say, should we apply for this grant? And then at that time, we would, and she would tell us it's going to be 9 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages. Thank you.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, Mr. City Manager, a couple of quick follow-ups. So the cost of this item is being shared by 3 departments. You said police, public works, and parks?
Recreation.
Oh, okay. And then have you worked with this individual before, or any cities that you've worked with them before?
I've worked with her for 10 years.
Good communication,
Yes.
high success rate?
She's fantastic in communication and being accessible anytime I call her.
Thank you, sir.
No additional comments? I take this back to the public. Is there any members of the public who would like to make a comment? Seeing none. Is there any hand raised on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
I'm bringing this back to the council. One hand up on Zoom. There is actually one participant.
It's actually
What is that?
the consultant.
The consultant would like to speak. She says yes.
You'll
Can
need
you
to-
hear
you'll-
me?
there you
We
go.
see your face.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just want to just clarify the fee. So what we do is charge a monthly fee for our clients, and we only write grants for clients on a monthly fee. And so what we do is we meet with different departments, different staff, and the council, if desired, to learn about priorities, what your interests are, where you're making your investments. And then from there, we recommend various grants and community projects. And so our fee is not hourly. Sometimes if it's a grant we've written before for you or something, it's much less expensive to do it hourly instead of a flat fee. So most grants have a flat fee. And that flat fee, the number of pages is only the narrative pages. And so we just submitted a grant, for instance, last week that was 150 pages, but the narrative itself was only 25 pages. And then the amount that was requested was the max was only 150,000 over 3 years. So we reduced our fees even further. So what we try to do is be part of the team and really work to make it work for you. And have been in business for 10 years. In that 10 years, we've only lost one client ever. And we do win about 95% of our grants. We've ranged in funding from clients anywhere from our newest client, which has just been a year. We've gotten them $3.4 million in 1 year in 2 programs. And there's 2 more grants pending that we're waiting on awards for. Another group of clients in Puerto Rico, we've gotten them $86 million in 5 years. So what we do is limit the number of clients we work for. And as Doug said, we work for people who we really like to work for, and we overperform. And so, like I said, we have 10 staff who are client managers, grant managers, different types of support staff, and we only have 15 clients. So that's a pretty good hands-on ratio. And what we really do is go in deep and help you build the programs before the applications even come out. So we kind of plan what we're going to apply for, get partnerships together, kind of build what we're going to do. And we write both federal and state and sometimes county. And we do community projects for the clients, which is included in our fee. And those are like the congressional earmarks. And every client has gotten at least one in the last 2 years, ranging from $400,000 to $6 million. And the assembly member might share too, there is often money through the state, through the assembly and state senators, in which they put forward projects too, which we also help with. I'm happy to answer any questions, but and I want to add that our clients, we only want to work for people who want to work with us. And so we have a cancellation clause at any time. We can cancel if we aren't getting what we're needing, and we have canceled clients before. Well, we haven't renewed the contract with clients before. Or you can cancel if you're just not happy. But I feel pretty confident in the first year, you should win a couple of grants.
Thank
Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
It doesn't look like there's any questions, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. You do have a question, sir?
You've already answered.
Your microphone, turn it on, sir. Turn on the mic. Turn the mic on.
You may have already answered this question. Do you research private grants or just public grants? Grants from the federal government, state government. You also look for grants from, different trust funds and stuff like that.
Foundations, we don't specialize in foundation grants, and we have tried that before in hiring people. It just really didn't work for us, but we do write financial foundation grants. One of our clients, we did the introductory letter for a Comcast grant, and they've been invited to apply now. And then another client, we started in the Mackenzie Scott application process, and we've just advanced to the second step in that. So we do write, especially those are things that lots of times come to us. We've written the Chick-fil-A grant, and some of those we do write, but that is not our expertise. They usually come to us with them, or if we know of them, we'll put them forward to you.
Thank you.
All right. We've already been over this. I believe we've already reached out to the public, and if not, is there any additional comments from the public? Zoom? Okay. Bring this back to the council for a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 9 of the consent calendar.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public hearing. We have a total of 4. First one, item number 10, resolution number 2023, ordering the levy and collections of special taxes for fiscal year 2023-24 within the City of Sirius Community Facilities District Number 1. Kevin, this was yours. Before we move on, I believe that Rosalinda might have had a conflict and she's going to double check. Which one's the one that she?
Well, I know for sure 10, I have a conflict. I would, or, well, I did, I emailed asking the districts for 10 and 11 to make sure that it's not part of those because they only had parcel numbers, not addresses. So I just want to make sure none of those taxed houses are my property, as I do have to abstain.
Excuse me. I don't know if we have that specific information on hand, but we did discuss item 12.
I know
So
for sure my address is on there and I abstain for that. I just didn't know if 10 and 11, because I don't want to vote on something that would include my property.
my recommendation then is if we're not exactly sure, should consider potential recusal. We'd have to figure out the address and see how close it is to the properties that are associated with this levy.
Yeah, I
And
emailed, I didn't get a response, so I wasn't sure. Myself.
At this point, I would say it's not clear that you need to, but in the abundance of caution, you could consider recusal.
Give us 1 second, please, while we figure this out. What is
It's on
your,
the map. I
So-
colored area.
So based off the map, you're not included in the area for assessments for items 10 and 11. So then there's no need for recusal. You can move forward on participating on those 2 items. And on item 12, then I'll make sure to remind for recusal.
back to you, Kevin.
Okay, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, it is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Sarah Mares, Director of MBS, a special tax consultant for the city of Sirius since 2017. Sarah will be presenting a public hearing presentation on 2 community facility districts, CFD 1 and 2, and the summary of the engineer's report for the city's 1987 landscape and lighting district. It is up to the council's pleasure to allow the presentation to be done for both CFD 1 and 2. As the presentation visuals are just two. We have one that covers both CFD 1 and 2, and we have an LLD presentation. Is there,
You can proceed.
okay, thank you. Sarah, can you take it?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Just confirming everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So this item is related to, well, we'll talk about both items, the CFD number 1 and CFD number 2. This is the annual levy and collection of special taxes for these two community facilities districts. These are districts that were formed many years ago, and before you this evening are resolutions to approve the levy and collection of the special taxes. Without these resolutions or approval of these resolutions, the city would not be able to move forward with levying and collecting the special taxes in these districts. So I think there's a presentation that's being pulled up right now just to give you a little bit of background information about the boundaries of the district and which areas are included. These districts were formed and then have had multiple annexations over the years to include additional properties within the boundaries. So you can see the various color-coded areas on a very colorful map here that shows the original boundary along with the multiple annexations that have occurred over time. So those parcels in those colored areas are the only ones affected by the special tax levy. And the special tax is levied and collected each year on the property tax rolls. Each year a CPI inflator is applied to the levy of the special taxes. So those rates do increase on an annual basis in order to keep up with inflation. I think there's one more page of the presentation or one more slide in the presentation, if we can go to that. All right, so again, this
Please,
just,
can you please stand by? Councilwoman, do you have a comment? Microphone.
On that last slide, this lower ivory area or aqua color is within my scope of influence.
Oh,
500 feet.
then go ahead. If you need to recuse yourself, go ahead.
Based off that information, my recommendation would be for recusal.
Okay, ma'am, you may continue.
thank you so much. This is just some brief background information about the districts. They do fund some public safety services within the city, along with maintenance costs for parks and parkways and open spaces. I mentioned the annual tax escalation factor is no greater than 4%. So this year, of course, CPI is a little higher than that. So we are limited to that 4% maximum inflator. And parcels are taxed based on the number of units and undeveloped industrial office and other non-residential properties are not included. And then there's a little bit of background on each of the two districts in terms of when they were formed and what those current rates are. And I'm happy to answer any questions about the CFDs or the process for approval before you consider the resolutions.
Thank you. We now open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the chambers or attending on Zoom that would like a comment on this item? Are there any hands raised?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Did you receive any emails on this item?
I did not receive any emails.
Seeing that there's no public comment, I now close the public hearing. Sir, you have a question? What'd you say, sir? Yes. We'll bring this back to the council, correct? We can bring it back to the council after we close the public hearing, correct? This one, yeah, that's fine. I need a beeper on this thing now. The public hearing is now closed. Bring this back to the council for discussion. Looks like Councilmember Casey has pressed his button. Sir, you're up. You're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, the levy is for police and fire and such. What percentage of the fire is kept by the city for the maintenance of the equipment and stuff? And what percentage of that fire that we collect on this mail route goes back to the labor? How's that divided up? I mean, when it was passed, we were on our own fire department. Now we have contract labor, and thank you.
So the funds collected from the CFD do not pay for any salaries, all for facility maintenance and rates.
Any additional comments or questions by the council? Okay, bringing this council back for a motion.
Move to approve number 10 under public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Aye.
Councilmember Vieira abstained, Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1 for one abstention.
And Nubia, this question is for you before we move on to item number 11. Is she going to recuse herself from this one as well, or was that specific to item 10?
I believe it was specific to item 10, but again, because the presentations were tied together, I don't believe she has an recusal for item 2, but I'd have to defer to staff about the map and whether or not it's the same map and information that we're using for item 11.
The same map.
Same map.
Same map. And I guess that's just
Different boundaries, or is it?
same boundaries?
It's CFD 1, CFD 2 are independent of each other.
So they're different boundaries. Show us that second map. It's the same.
It's the same map for the same presentation. So one is for CF1. The other one's for CFD2. So which color belongs to which?
Nubia, it's on you. Sorry to put it on you. What do you think? Is that the staff recommendation that we're?
If I remember correctly,
Mhm.
Councilmember Vieira said that it was the light blue color, and I think that's District 2. So that's this item as well. So
Mhm.
she'll recusal on this item. She should stay recused for this
You
item.
want to double check to make sure, can you go over there and just tell her that for item number 11, that she's okay with? What do you recommend, Nubia? I'm sorry, I gotta make you get up. I'm so sorry. I just don't want there to be any backlash. Yeah. Thank you for everyone's patience. You want to come back to confirm?
Councilmember Vieira, if you can confirm the area you just showed me on the map is the light blue color that has now been identified as District 2 on this map.
Conferring with the mayor, so I know what was discussed when I wasn't in here. The, yes,
This is Mr. Crab Drive in Aqua.
yeah, off the Aristocrat.
Okay, and that's
Then I-
District 2 and that is item 11. So based off of that information, my recommendation is for recusal.
Okay, so I'm back to where I was.
Thank you. Better safe than not. Resolution number 23, ordering the levy and collections of special taxes for fiscal year 2023-24 within the city of Sirius Community Facilities District number 2. This is yours, Kevin. Even though, are you saying that they were both together? The whole presentation was all together for both of them?
Yes,
Anything to add?
understand. The presentation is the same,
Okay.
except for the amount.
Except for the amount? Okay, if you can please clarify.
Yes, the amount for CFD 2, the current rate was 971.86, and the new rate, 4% adjustment is 1,010.74.
Okay,
That's the only change. The presentation applies.
your microphone's breaking up. Can somebody please try it again? I just want for people who are listening to Zoom that, no, I was saying that your microphone was cutting in and out.
I'm sorry. Is that better?
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay. You want me to repeat myself?
Yes, please.
Okay. The presentation applies to both CF1 and CF2. CF2, the current rate is 971.46. And at the recommended adjustment of 4%, the new rate will be $1,010.74.
Okay, thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. If there's anyone in the chambers or attending through Zoom that would like to comment on this item. Anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Receive any emails on this item?
No received.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. I'll bring back this item for council discussion, questions and actions. Any questions for the council? Mr. Casey?
Sure. So are these the funds that help with the grit stuff that we ran out of money? Is this where the landscaping around the developments, the walls and stuff? Is that what this money is used for?
This is not item number 13. That would be landscape lighting, the LFD. That'll be next.
Kevin, your mic is horrible. You mind just switching out microphones just real quick?
That, oh, yeah. Thank you. Mr. Casey, that applies to LLD, item number 13, not item 12.
We're actually, Kevin, on number 11, and his question was, is these taxes help to maintain along the streets, the walls and housing developments and housing areas, along with the police and public safety? On number 11 on the agenda.
Now, Sarah, can you answer that question for us?
Yeah, the services to be provided in the CFD include those public safety services along with some of the in-tract landscaping services as well. But as Kevin mentioned, it is not the landscape and lighting district. That's a separate item, which is on the agenda as the next item.
You're not,
So is the answer, yes, this money is to maintain the properties that are part of this district, the cement walls that separate them and the sidewalks that go around them? Is that what this money is for?
Mr. Casey, let me elaborate on the sound wall. The sound wall is part of the development. So when the developer puts in the sound wall, it becomes the owner's property to maintain. So in case if there's an accident, someone ran into that wall, it's on the property insurance of that individual or that property owner to handle that damage.
Yeah. Bear with me, please. So on Central Avenue, there's a wall around the property at the end of Central and River Road. So the property owner is responsible for the sidewalk and the trees that are planted along Central Avenue and River Road.
No, that's part of the right of way maintenance that the city provides. But the wall itself is not owned by the city. It's owned by the property owner.
Okay, so that was what, I guess I didn't make my question very. So these funds that we're getting ready to raise taxes on, that's to maintain that property between the wall and the road, the sidewalk, and those trees and plants that are planted there?
Oh, that is part of the LLDs, Mr. Casey. It's not a part of the CFDs.
Thank you.
Does it make sense to you?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir. Go ahead if you need to.
just
jump in.
for clarification here. In the background, so it describes it for, cost for police, fire and ambulance, maintenance costs of parks, parkways and open spaces. Councilman Casey's asking those parkways that he's talking about, that be supported by this CFD. Because it's listed in here as parks and parkways. That's what his question is.
I'm not aware of any park that has block walls on it, if that's what you're referring to.
No, we're not talking about block walls. We're talking about the grass, the taking care of the parkway. No, we're not talking about block wall. Take that out.
Yes, yes, I believe that the definition is clear that the CFDs do take care of park maintenance.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Casey, the answer to your question would actually be no. These don't take care of those areas where you're asking. The landscaping lighting districts do. These take care of public safety and parks and things like that. If that makes it more clear.
So in Eastgate, the wall that separates houses from the streets, this has nothing to do with.
That would be the landscape and lighting district that we're going to talk about
Thank
next.
you.
You're welcome. Move to
Okay.
approve number 11 under public hearing.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
No,
Councilmember Vieira abstained, Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
motion carries 3, 1, and 1 abstention.
She's staying out of 12 too. Sorry. Bear with us. Item number 12. Resolution approving the fiscal year 2023-24 amendment engineers report and ordering the levy assessments for the 1987 landscape and lighting district for fiscal year 2023-24. Kevin, this one is also yours.
yes, I'm going to introduce Sarah Mark as again to present the LLD presentation.
Thank you again and good evening again, Mayor, members of the council and members of the public. There is a presentation, a brief presentation that goes along with this item as well. If we could pull that up, but this is the second step of the process to the annual process for the landscape and lighting district. This district was formed in 1987 and has been levied by the city over the last, well, that's a very long time. So we are here as the second step of the annual process to hold a public hearing and consider some resolutions. As with the CFDs, the the resolutions this evening, should they not be approved, the city would not have the ability to levy and collect the assessments on the property tax rolls for the 23-24 fiscal year. This landscape and lighting district pays for, well, precisely landscaping and lighting throughout the city areas. Particularly, there are streetlights throughout the city that are funded through the landscape and lighting district, as well as, and this actually gives you a little bit more specifics in terms of some of the areas where the landscaping is covered by this landscape and lighting district. So there are some rights of way, the West Point median, Brown median, Brown Park maintenance, Dara Street, Devontae Villas, East Gate, and then various areas where street lighting is covered as well. Again, this rate is allowed to increase by the consumer price index. And so there is a recommendation to review that consumer price index information and make a determination as to whether to increase the assessments. Let's see. Next slide, please. So this gives you a sense of where the landscape and lighting district assessments are being collected. You can see again the various colors there on the map are various areas where services are being provided. So you can see that it's not citywide, but various communities throughout the city are paying into this assessment district. And next slide.
It's just frozen and slow. Must be operating on OS.
While we're waiting, I have a question. On the CFDs, there was a 4.4%, cap. Is there a cap on this landscaping lighting districts? And will we be figuring these increases out on the CPI increase that was 5.124%?
Vice Mayor, there is no cap on LLDs, and the 5.124% will apply.
Thank you.
There's no additional slides? There's no additional slides, ma'am.
All right. So you have with you a copy attached to the agenda, a copy of the annual report that goes along with this district that provides a lot of detail in terms of the various zones that are within the district. So each of the areas has information about those particular zones, what parcels are in those areas. Some of them are single family, some also have maybe some multifamily as well. So what are the types of property, what are the services being provided, and it provides a little bit more detail on some of the budget and calculation of the assessment rates. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the landscape and lighting district.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open. Is there anyone in the chambers or attending through Zoom that'd like to make a comment on this item? Seeing none, I see two hands raised, Lee and Albert.
Lee, you're able to unmute your mic.
Hey, good evening, council. My name is Lee Brandt, and I've been going to the council meetings for quite a while, but now that Zoom is, it's much easier. I'm just curious, is this the landscape and lighting district? Is this something that has to be done every year? I mean, I'm just
Yes,
curious.
sir.
It is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, because it does, it seems like every year you go through the same thing. So, okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
No worries, Lee. Thank you.
Albert, you can unmute your mic.
Mayor and council, I had previously spoke to you regarding my concerns regarding the LLD. Unfortunately, I could not be there tonight, but I've had the opportunity to meet with the city manager and discuss my concerns. Some of those concerns have been remedied in the assessment. Although I still have some issues regarding the report, those do not affect the annual assessment. So I would recommend that it move forward and that the other concerns hopefully will be resolved within the next year so that when the report is brought to you next year, it will have the corrections made to some of the calculations and some of the information that is included in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more hands raised?
There are no additional
was
hands
Albert.
raised on Zoom. Can you please mute your mic?
Looks like they're both muted. Okay. With that being said, the public hearing is now closed. Bring this item back to the council for discussion. Mr. Casey?
Move to approve number 12 under
One
public
second.
hearings.
I see, that was before where you was, the screen keeps going black, so my apologies.
Thank you. So this has been one of the items that I had voted on no previously. I had questions and concerns about it when we did our budget. I had questions when it got brought up to us the last meeting. I feel like a lot of those have been answered. Meetings that I have with the city manager clarified a lot of the information. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve this consent or this public hearing item.
Okay.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Sure, before I vote, I just want to make a statement. I'm probably one of the council people here who had the opportunity to vote on Proposition 13, and I voted for, so no.
Continue, ma'am.
Councilmember Vieira abstain, Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion carries 3-1 with one abstention.
Okay, thank you. Let's bring back Miss Rosalinda to the council member to come back and move forward. Welcome back. Item number 13, amending Chapter 10 mobile food vending from motor vehicles of Title V Business License and Regulations of the Series Municipal Code to amend the regulation related to food trucks. Christopher, you have a presentation, sir?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mayor. We have a interpreter translator here. Her name is Alondra. And this might be an appropriate time for her to come up to the podium. And as I speak in English, she'll translate for us into Spanish. Also, if there are any questions or comments by the council, staff, or the public during this item, I would please ask for a time for that translation to occur. So I'll say a few sentences and then she'll translate into Spanish, or whoever's talking. Just give her time, please, to make those translations. Thank you.
And let's make sure, is there anybody in the audience that needs translation in Spanish? There's a yes, so that is correct. So
Okay.
we have to double check.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
First, I'd like to, before I get into the background of this item, I would like to explain that mobile food vendors, which is the topic of this item, are food trucks, and they are not street vendors or sidewalk vendors. That would be a different topic for a different day. And those would be people that have either a pop-up tent or a push cart. They would not be someone that has a food truck.
Antes de empezar el historial sobre este tema, solo quería aclarar que el tema de hoy es sobre la venta móvil de alimentos en vehículos motorizados. El tema no es sobre vendedores ambulantes. Eso será un tema en el futuro. Ahorita lo que estamos hablando es de venta móvil de alimentos en vehículos motorizados.
Thank you. The background for this item is that since the time that I started working for the city of Ceres nearly 2 years ago, we have had a limit of 10 food trucks in the city, and we've been
Can I translate that? Just they need to be a little shorter. Yeah. Okay. Desde hace 2 años que he empezado a trabajar aquí, el límite de los vendedores que hemos dejado y permitido vender han sido 10.
And we've been at that limit of 10 since for the last 2 years, at least.
Hemos estado en ese límite por lo menos 2 años desde que yo he estado aquí y hemos estado en ese límite.
We often have people come to our front counter asking if they could have a food truck.
Tenemos muchas personas que vienen a preguntarnos si es posible tener un vehículo motorizado para vender alimentos.
And just for clarification, you might say lonchera as well. For brevity's sake, yeah.
Solo para verificar, podría también decir loncheras.
And we've told people as they come into the counter that we have this limit.
Cuando vienen a preguntarnos sobre la venta de estos permisos, le hemos dicho que sí hay un límite.
And since we have a limit, we're keeping track of the people that are interested in opening a food truck by adding them to a waiting list.
Como tenemos este límite, sí estamos tomando inventario de la gente que está viniendo a preguntar por esos permisos y eso es lo que tenemos ahorita.
So far, I counted today 19 people that are on our waiting list.
Ahora he contado el número de gente que ha venido y ahorita en este momento son 19 que están en lista de espera.
Staff started working on this ordinance to come up with solutions since there seems to be a great need and desire for people to open food trucks and not be able to.
El personal y yo hemos trabajado para poder modificar la ordenancia para que muchos puedan poder tener esta oportunidad.
So with that in mind, we organized 2 community meetings.
Con esto en mente, organizamos 2 reuniones comunitarias.
And those community meetings were held, and we received feedback from the community. Those comments are part of the agenda packet tonight.
Esos comentarios y reuniones se presentaron y esos comentarios son los que ahorita están agendando.
Based on the feedback that we received, staff has put together recommendations for changes to the ordinance.
Basado en los comentarios que recibimos, es las recomendaciones que hemos puesto en el nuevo plan.
And I'd like to go over them briefly, and I can go into more depth if there are any questions.
Me gustaría tomar este tiempo para poder presentar esas opciones.
So the first recommendation is to remove the limit of 10 food trucks that we've currently have.
La primera recomendación que tenemos es de quitar el límite de 10 que ahorita tenemos.
This would put us in line with other cities such as Turlock, our neighboring city.
Esto nos pondría en línea con nuestras ciudades vecinas como la ciudad de Turlock.
Would also allow businesses to grow within Ceres and create more options for people to.
También incrementaría los negocios que tenemos aquí y para poder también que crezcan estos negocios.
And with the limit that we have currently, it requires staff to monitor each food truck operation to make sure that they're active because there are people waiting in line. And if a food truck becomes inactive, then we need to prove that somehow.
Ahorita lo que estamos haciendo es monitorear que los negocios que están en la lista estén activos porque si no están activos, entonces tendríamos que quitarlos de la lista.
So, another regulation that we have is a distance buffer between food trucks and other.
Otras limitaciones que tenemos es la distancia que tienen que estar entre. What was the distance for? I'm sorry.
So those distances are 1,000 feet between food trucks
Las trocas tienen que estar a 1000 pies a distancia de cada uno
and 350 feet between food trucks and restaurants.
y 300 pies de distancia entre las loncheras y los negocios
Or parks.
o parques.
These distance buffers create similar issues that we saw with the 10.
Can you repeat that last word?
These distance buffers create similar issues that we saw with the limit of 10.
Estas limitaciones de distancia son los mismos problemas que estamos viendo con la regulación que tenemos de limitarlos a 10.
Staff's recommendation is to remove both of these in order to allow for more freedom of businesses to locate where they desire.
La recomendación del personal es que se quiten estas limitaciones para que puedan tener más opciones y puedan también estar en la lista.
So one example that I might give is if there's a restaurant such as a McDonald's, that McDonald's would not preclude a Burger King from opening across the street.
Un ejemplo que quiero dar es como si McDonald's abriera, no necesariamente quiere decir que no va a haber un Burger King a la distancia o un Burger King a la distancia.
Moving on to the next recommendation,
La próxima recomendación es,
we have various permit types.
tenemos varios tipos de permisos.
There are 4.
Hay 4.
The first is an administrative use permit.
El primero es un uso de administrativo, permiso.
Be approved at a staff level.
Esto sería aprobado por el personal
And this would be for a single food truck on a property.
y esto sería para una lonchera en la propiedad.
The second is a temporary use permit,
El segundo es un permiso temporario
and this would be for special events if a food truck desires to be at a special event.
y esto sería para eventos especiales si deseara la lonchera estar en eventos especiales.
The third is a conditional use permit,
El tercero es un permiso condicional
and this would be approved by planning commission.
y esto sería aprobada por el Comisión de Planificación.
And this would allow for multiple food trucks at a single site, such as a Grubhub.
Y esto dejaría que varios loncheras o vehículos motorizados de comida pudieran estar en una localidad como es de Grubhub.
And the fourth is for ice cream trucks.
Y la cuarta sería trocas para vender hielo.
Nieves, yeah.
Yes, that's all right. The next recommendation is to clarify the definitions that we use.
La próxima recomendación es para clarificar las definiciones de las palabras que usamos,
Such as motor vehicle and trailer.
como vehículos motorizados y trailers.
This came out of, again, feedback that we received from the public.
Y esto fue por las recomendaciones o los comentarios del público.
The next is to increase the single food truck permit timeframe.
Y el próximo es la limitación de una lonchera por localidad,
From a 1-year timeframe to 5 years.
de contrato de 1 año a 5 años.
This has a few benefits.
Esto tiene algunos beneficios.
So one is that it costs a lot to purchase a food truck and run a business.
El primero es que cuesta mucho dinero para comprar un vehículo motorizado, una lonchera,
And having a 5-year permit would give some stability to those businesses.
y teniendo un permiso de 5 años le daría más estabilidad a este negocio.
It would also be more consistent with other city that, in this region.
Y también sería más consistente con los ciudades vecinos.
Next, it would be to allow, limited tables, tents and seating.
También el próximo es para dejar que pueda haber asientos limitados.
Similar to what Turlock has, they allow up to two tables and
Limitado a como es la ciudad de, you said Turlock?
we heard from,
Hold on, you said Turlock?
You say Turlock?
Turlock, yes.
Okay, como es la ciudad de Turlock que deja tener hasta 2 mesas y sillas.
We heard from one business owner, at a community meeting that desired to have tables and chairs. And, there was a little discussion.
Hemos tratado el tema con un cliente que vino y nos dijo que estaría interesado en tener sillas y mesas en su localidad.
And the discussion was about, well, who's going to clean the trash and how's that going to work?
El tema o la discusión fue sobre quién va a limpiar el basurero y la área.
So that's all covered, in this ordinance about, keeping the site clean.
Y eso está en la ordenancia.
And the person at the meeting indeed said that they would, clean up after the site because they want people to visit and to eat there and they want it.
Y la persona con que tuvimos la reunión dijo que ellos iban a recoger y limpiar esa área porque ellos quieren que vender.
The next would be to prohibit music, unless it's at a special event
El
permit.
próximo es de prohibir música solo si es para un evento especial.
This is because, food truck business is inherently outsides and out. Use.
Y esto es porque las loncheras están afuera.
With music outdoors, we don't want like a permanent, noise issue.
Por estar afuera no queremos algo que pase porque está afuera.
The next is to require, I just realized I wasn't holding my microphone very close to my mouth. Can everyone hear me better?
¿Me pueden escuchar mejor?
Okay, sorry. The next was to require, lavatories or bathrooms within 200 feet.
El próximo es permitir baños a 200 pies.
And this is, specifically that, an existing business that has a bathroom, needs to give written permission to that food truck owner to allow, the operator of the food truck to use the bathroom.
Esto es porque actualmente los negocios tienen que darle permiso a la lonchera para usar su baño que tienen en su negocio.
The next is to clarify that if the property owner where the food truck is located ever decides that they don't want the food truck there anymore, that they can tell the city and the city will revoke the permit.
El próximo recomendación es que si el dueño de la propiedad en algún momento ya no quiere la lonchera en su propiedad, el propietario entonces puede contactar a la ciudad y la ciudad tiene el derecho de quitar esa lonchera de su propiedad.
And then the last ones, that came up from our community meeting are, there was a suggestion that, food trucks not be allowed in the downtown area during the Ceres Street Fair unless they're participants of the Ceres Street Fair.
La última recomendación fue de que no se permitiera las loncheras en la área de downtown, a no ser que estén participando en el evento de la Street Fair.
So those are the main changes.
Esos son los cambios importantes.
A couple things that came up at the couple comments that came up at the last, city council meeting.
Los comentarios que se presentaron en el anterior reunión concejal.
The first, was a question about, the size of the city of Ceres and how many food trucks, might fit in the city of Ceres versus Turlock.
El comentario fue, el tema fue de cuánta gente o qué tan grande era la ciudad de Ceres a comparación a otras ciudades.
So I did some math and I found the population of the two cities and the area and square miles that those cities are.
Hice matemática para saber cuál era la población de la ciudad de Ciris y también el millaje cuadrado de la ciudad.
And just to answer that question,
Y para responder a esa pregunta,
the food trucks that if we had the same number of food trucks as Turlock based on
si nosotros tuviéramos la misma cantidad de la ciudad de Turlock para las loncheras
proportionally by area,
por la área,
then we would have 25 food trucks.
serían 25 loncheras.
And if we were proportionate to Turlock based on population,
Y a proporción de población de las ciudades de Turlock,
then we would have 31 food trucks.
tendríamos 31 loncheras.
If we compare ourselves to Modesto
Si nos comparamos a la ciudad de Modesto,
based on area or population,
basado en la área de población,
we would have 37 or 38.
tendríamos 37 o 38 loncheras.
And again, currently we have 10
Y ahorita tenemos 10.
plus a few that are part of a conditional use permit at El Ramatito.
Más, how many did you say?
I said a few.
Oh, okay. Más unos cuantos que tenemos con un permiso condicional en el rematito.
And we have 19 potential food trucks on a waiting list.
Y tenemos 19 en lista de espera.
Another question that came up at the last meeting
Otra pregunta que se presentó en la otra reunión
dealt with the fire code and distances between like a
El-
tent or canopy and flammable source.
El tema que se trató en la otra tuvo que ver con fuego y también con el código del fuego, de incendios, perdón.
We have a section in our ordinance
Tenemos una sección en nuestra ordenancia
that requires
requiere
food trucks to abide by the fire code. So that covers us.
que tienen que, los requisitos están en la ordenancia y ellos tienen que adherirse a esos códigos.
Lastly, with the feedback that we've received most recently,
Con los comentarios que hemos recibido últimamente,
staff would like to suggest that we have a committee that's formed.
el personal recomienda que se haga un comité.
The format of that committee would be up.
El formato tendría que ser aprobado por el cónsul.
But we do have a suggested roster of people that we came up with that we could have a few members from the public and a couple people from the city council, if you'd like to hear those.
Nosotros tenemos una lista del público y también del personal de la ciudad de Ciris si le gustaría verlo.
We'll go to a public hearing and then we'll come back for discussion. The public hearing is now open. I do have 3 yellow cards. And if anybody else would wish to speak afterwards, please raise your hand. The first person that I have is Mr. Donoso.
Mr. Chairman, disculpe, estaba atrás en la junta con un niño.
I'm sorry, I was in the back with a child.
I'm very strong supporting of the concept of recommended by the staff in regard to the lonchera. Because I think we need more business to support the city in regard to that. And that small business is the key of any economic town, country, or city, because that's the power, that the engineering factor to economic to grow, not the segment. That's a corporations. I'm talking about the families own or working families. They live in this community and bring more economic this community. So our very strong support the recommendation of the staff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. The next person we have is Vela Senora.
Llamo Marta Villaseñor.
My name is Marta Villaseñor,
Y yo estoy de acuerdo con lo 13,
and I agree with item number 13
las loncheras,
for the mobile food vending from motor vehicles.
porque me sacan de apuro cuando no quiero cocinar.
Because they get me at a jam when I need to cook.
They taste so good. Tacos and they're good. So I'm aware that everything what you said, it was pretty good. Everything was good. But the only thing that I really don't want is the music, because if they're close to my house and hear the music at 2, 3 o'clock in the night, that's, oh, I'm sorry. That's the only reason, but everything else is perfect.
Mayor, may I clarify?
Yes, and make sure somebody is managing this clock too.
¿Puedo clarificar?
The recommendation is to prohibit music
La recomendación es para prohibir la música.
at food trucks.
Ajá, en las loncheras. Para que no.
Okay, thank you. You're with me.
Okay, thank you. Next card that I have is Debbie Martinez.
Debbie Martinez, I represent community. I am a parent advocate, and I'm in favor of lifting the ban on the food trucks. And I'll tell you why. I'm in Ceres district, school district is awesome with me, and I'm all over the place, and I can run to Turlock. And there's nothing, and I don't have time to go into an In-N-Out Burger where you guys made beautiful facility out there across the street from Walmart. I find myself going to the taco trucks in Keys. Keys has maybe 5 within that one strip. I would love to see that here in Ceres. So when I don't have time to go through a drive-through and I just want to grab a quick burrito or a taco or something, I find myself giving the business to Keys. And so I'm asking to lift that so that as we grow here in Ceres, the food vendors also grow as well, because we not all can stop at a restaurant, and we preferably can just grab a quick something off of a taco truck and call it a day and keep going. So I'm in favor of lifting the ban and just support local vendors, because restaurants are getting pretty pricey as well. So thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anybody in the public besides the yellow cards that would like to make a comment?
¿Alguien más que le gustaría decir un comentario?
Mr. Gately, your hands were raised. Go ahead, sir.
Uniquely shaped. Previously, probably about a month back when they started talking about this, there was some conversation talked about the area they got on 9th Street in Modesto. Not sure what they call that. It's very clean, and they got all kinds of different foods you can pick from. And it's kind of got a nice atmosphere to it. And I understood from previous council meeting that there was something said about there's possibly some property owners in Ceres that might be considered to have this kind of activity, a park kind of thing. And that in the report, I didn't see anything that mentioned anything about that was said or talked about or anything. You know, I don't know if you're going to vote on this finally tonight, but I think you might reconsider and look into these areas where we possibly put something, and something that's aesthetic for the city that wants to bring people there just for that particular thing. I believe that people that see the one in Modesto that are attracted to those kind of food trucks and stuff and the different foods they have, I think those people won't have any problem going anywhere. Just like the lady here, she goes to Keys. Well, you know, sometimes we got to travel for food, and hopefully not too far. But if we have something nice and and attractive in the city, I think that's a plus. You know, and that can accommodate a lot of different trucks that they're wanting to add and stuff instead of spreading them out all over town. And, you know, depends on where you come from or what you see in your own eyes. Some of these things, it just doesn't seem to fit community, you know, when they're all spread all over the place. But if you have it centralized, I think that one on Ninth Street, they have some fake grass and they got the iron tails. It looks really nice in there. And I think the city should reconsider and take a little bit more time to look into these possible property owners that would want to get into that and bring on these people and just make the community a little bit nicer. Thank you.
Sir. Mr. Warren, I see your hand raised. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, John Warren, City of Syracuse. I think what Mr. Yeagley was referring to was like a food court thing, which is it could be developed here in the city. I think if property owners would consider that type of business. But the distances between our schools and parks seems to have gotten here, maybe overlooked, or maybe I've overlooked it. But I think originally as the code is now, that the food vendors, the mobile trucks can vend or sell their products within 350 feet of our schools or at our city parks. And I think that needs to be maintained in the ordinance. I think if we end up with 30 or 40 food trucks in the city, they're going to eventually thin themselves out because I don't think the business will support that. There's only so many people that will use these vehicles for their meals. And I think in the end of the process, they'll self-destruct themselves. But the distances from our schools and parks, I think needs to be.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to make a comment? I have somebody in the back. Ma'am. She's right here. Right here. We can barely hear you. If you can bring.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity. My name is Ofelia Navarrete, and I've been here resident for almost 13 years. And we, as a family, started a food truck business, but I'm one of the families that's on the waiting list. So I would be gladly following instructions, obeying obedience for the regulations for the food truck. And I was, in conversation with Mr. James and now with Christopher. So I just want to thank you. And if I agree on our food trucks, that's going to be committed if you guys decide. I just want to thank you for your cooperation and everything. Myself to grow a community here because I don't want to I live here, so I don't want to take my business anywhere else. I want to keep family and family business here in Syracuse. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who would like to make a comment? Yes, sir. Please step up to the podium. Please state your name, sir.
Oh, all right. Hey, how's it going? My name is Chris. So I currently have 2 food trucks, one in Lathrop and one in Modesto. So I'm all for what you guys are doing here. At first, when you guys had opened the option to actually have food trucks in series, honestly, I was kind of like, I will not say pushed away, but you guys made it so difficult to actually add a food truck here in series. So that's why I never even thought, or not coming back, but seeing if I could put one, because you're back then where you have to have a facility or say a restaurant that's been valued to itself, but kind of how, we spoke about, or Chris spoke about earlier, that not too many restaurants want competition in front of them. So,
No worries.
so the other thing is the restroom issue. I would say if you guys spoke about having restaurants, let you use the restrooms, but how about like, gas stations or any other place that just has obviously a commercial place that has a restaurant that you can use, not just restaurants, because we kind of go back to the same thing where the restaurant, you spoke about, McDonald's and Taco Bell, but yet again, a small, mom and pop shop is not gonna want a taco truck to be parked outside because, they don't want that competition. That's something to kind of keep in mind, like maybe gas stations or that's not just restaurants.
Christopher, clarification.
So the current code requires 1,000 feet between food trucks, and it requires 350 feet from any restaurant to a food truck, versa. Unless that restaurant gives written permission that the food truck can be there. That kind of gives control of a food truck business to the neighboring properties that may have restaurants. And we don't see that in many other areas. Zoning code that gives that control to the neighbors as much as we do here. That was one of the reasons that staff is recommending change, is to allow food trucks where there is a restroom. It'd have to be at a commercial site that has that restroom available to the public, or actually just available to at least to the operator of the food truck. And that sort of precludes a lot of the problems that we may have with food trucks at parks, because that the park wouldn't have, park's not a business that has that same business restroom facility.
Right, like a commercial, they're commercial properties. Yeah, no, I understand that part, but like I said, just something to kind of think about. But yeah, I'm all for it, thank you guys for, opening your guys' doors, have more business coming in and more food trucks. I think, I currently have Hut and Petro Food Plaza. And like what the gentleman here spoke about, having kind of multiple trucks in one spot, it's a great idea because you can, if you take your family out, they, someone wants tacos, there's tacos, someone wants like Asian food, there's, Chinese food, there's, mixed variety of food. That's something kind of think about too. If you get to, you guys are thinking about having all these trucks, having like a limit amount in designated area, not to have, 10 taco trucks in one corner. Kind of spread out, there are going to be multiple in some spots. I mean, that way they're not, they say, like, eating too much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that would like to make comment in the audience? Seeing no hands. Moving to Zoom. I see 3 hands right now.
JP, you can unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is Juan Vasquez, and I am just calling in support of what's being proposed. Thank you. Thank you for working on this, and thank you for bringing it to the agenda. That's all I have.
Lee, you can unmute your mic.
Hi, good evening, council. Before I heard this meeting, I was dead set against it because I've had the opportunity to travel through Keys several times in the past month or so, and it seems like they have an awful lot of food trucks, which is fine because I know that they don't have the restaurant base, and I was just gonna be against it because I was trying to save the businesses here in Ceres, the established businesses. However, hearing the proposal, which was, by the way, that was really hard to hear a lot of what the gentleman was saying. I could hear the lady at the podium. Of course, I don't speak Spanish, so I didn't understand what was going on. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and vote for it. but I would like to see maybe a limit put on the types of food. Because right now, if we put 30 trucks out there, I would be willing to bet that 28 of them are all going to be Mexican food, tacos, burritos, things like that. And I understand the convenience of making them and things like that. However, Ceres is already overrun, with Mexican restaurants. And trust me, I have nothing against Mexican food because it's the best food in the world, except when it gets really hot, like the jalapenos and stuff like that. It's like, ugh. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. And I wish you good luck. Take care. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Next one.
Curtis, you can unmute your mic.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for letting me have a word in. I do love hearing everything that you guys are doing to obviously make Ceres better. Just something quick when it comes to the food trucks. I think having the option of food trucks that we currently have in the city of Ceres is great. But I'd like to just caveat on what the two gentlemen in person were saying. I do like seeing what Modesto does with the, I believe it is called Grubhub on 9th Street. I would love to see something like that happen for the city of Ceres. I think it's a good option. I've seen all of the fixes that were presented this evening. Those are all great. I just would love to see the city do something like a Grubhub facility that Modesto does. I think it puts a lot of weight on, property owners that would like to do that. I think there's a lot of hoops that they have to jump through to get that going. I think it would be something a little easier for the city to get going. And I think it would streamline the process of permitting and getting everyone approved for their food trucks. And I think it opens the door for cart vendors too. I'm not sure if Grubhub in Modesto does that at their facility. But I think it is an option for them too. And I believe it would be a good opportunity to streamline the whole process of getting food trucks approved in the city of Ceres. Thank you again for your time.
Thanks, sir. Next person.
Eva, you can unmute your mic.
Eva, if you can unmute your microphone. Alvarez, there you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, hi, my name is Eva and I am a resident of Ceres. And I just wanted to express my support towards adding more food trucks to Ceres. I just would want them to be aesthetically pleasing to look at, not just keep it cleaned up and a nice tent or an umbrella, nice seating area. And there's a lot of fast food already, and I don't always have time to go to a restaurant and sit down. And I think that I would really like to have more food trucks options. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Next
Thank
person.
you.
Nick, you can unmute your mic.
Hello, City Council. This is Nick Maynard, City of Ceres, founder, the Ceres Community Facebook group page. We had a question in the group, and I actually didn't know the answer either, that we were wondering that, I think you said the limit was 10 food trucks in the city, and we were only aware of 3. We got the one on the corner of Mitchell and Fowler, the one in the Liquor Locker strip mall parking lot, and then there's one on Whitmore, and then there's another one on Whitmore near the overpass. Where are the other 7? Are those have you permitted the trucks that are visiting the breweries that are coming in on a Wednesday, and then they don't come back until the next Wednesday? Is that where the 10 is coming from?
Christopher.
Yeah, what we're seeing, and I apologize for not speaking into the microphone very well earlier. What we're seeing is there are food trucks that don't operate every day. There are food trucks that are somewhat seasonal, and sometimes a food truck will go out of business, and it takes effort on the city's part to continually monitor these in order to find out they have gone out of business or that they've just stopped operating. When that happens, that clears one spot on the waiting list or on the list of food trucks. And the next person on the waiting list is then informed, now you're ready. Unfortunately, there's a time delay in order for them to start operating because they have to secure, sometimes they say, I'd like to be on the waiting list, but they haven't gotten their business completely ready to hit the ground running at a moment's notice. And so we're seeing a bit of a delay between the time that one food truck comes off of the list of 10 and the person on the waiting list gets to take that slot. And we're trying to figure out, how much time do we need to give each person before they're skipped, and then the next person goes and they'll still maintain their place on the waiting list. But I mean, what's fair for having people wait if other people down the list are closer to being ready to open immediately? So those are some of the issues that occur when we have a limit of any kind, whether the limit is 10 or 20. There could be people that are still on that waiting list, and we're going to run into the same problems. And that's why sometimes we don't see a full contingent of 10 food trucks operating at one time.
So when these people apply for a permit and they are approved for one and they start doing business within the city of Ceres, and then we don't see them, for a couple of weeks. I mean, who's running checks on these folks? I mean, to do an application, I would assume that you have their contact information so that you could reach, give them a call, and if they didn't answer, leave a voicemail. If you didn't hear back for a week or two, or some type of timeline that you're just not getting in touch with them, that would be probably a person that is no longer in operation. How do you determine? Because like I said, all that we see is 3 in the town, and you're saying that there's 7 more that the city of Ceres citizens are not seeing.
Mayor, would you like me to respond?
Yes, sir.
I believe that there are more than 3 that are in operation right now. But the point that you're trying to make, I think, is that someone needs to go out and check, and that's true. So this is a drain on staff resources with a limited staff that we have. One way that we found that we can see if a food truck no longer operates is to check on their quarterly the tax reports and stuff. Another way is we'll send out a letter, and we just did a round where we sent out a letter and an email to all existing food trucks, and we said, please prove to us that you're still in operation. So this sort of enforcement is not, I'm not sure that it was fully contemplated when this pilot program that we're currently in was put into existence. And it's really the limit that we have that is causing a lot of the problems that we're seeing.
Got it. Thank you for your responses. And I just want to say I'm all for more businesses opening, food trucks. Obviously, if we could get, like Lee was saying, some different types of food, kind of like the Grubhub, that would be, more options. That would be great too. But I'm just all for people, starting businesses, and that brings more money to the city of Ceres, and less people are going out to Modesto and Turlock or Keys, and giving those cities their business. They can stay, in close to home, and the city can, reap the benefits, with the tax dollars and things. Anyway, thank you, council.
Thank you very much. Next person, please.
Veronica, you can unmute your mic.
Good evening. My name is Veronica. I have lived in Ceres for about 35 years and I love it here. The reason I'm checking in is because during the week when I work, I drive up Crow's Landing, get my tacos. Yes, I do go to the food trucks. And on the weekends, after getting the yard and the house cleaned up, I don't want to cook. I go straight over to the Mitchell Road taco truck, pick up my order because I'm able to call it in. What I'm getting at is every Saturday I'm eating at that taco truck. And if not, it'll be a restaurant. The other thing is this weekend we try to get tripas. Some people like it, some people don't. But we were told that their business for tripas is in the evening later for the people that come in to eat. So it's telling us that they're busier in the evening for people. Many restaurants close, and if people are hungry after 10 o'clock, all we're going to have is food trucks to hit. I really love the idea of the Grubhub in series. For the fact is that I won't have to eat burritos every weekend. I could pick Chinese, I could pick Syrian food or whatever's out there, something different. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Like I said, I've been here 35 years. I've seen series grow. I love it. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is there any other hands raised?
There are no other hands raised on Zoom.
Is there any members of the public that would like to speak before we move and close? Seeing none. Okay, you got it, really high. Thank you, Irene. Appreciate it.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Irene Ortiz. I'm here on a couple of, different hats, Chamber of Commerce. I also own a small business, and I was also at the community meetings. And I think being here in person, hearing everyone's feedback and the thoughts about whether or not we want to open it up or keep it to 10 really brings it to light that there's a lot of people that are wanting to see growth in the community, whether it's with new businesses or more food trucks. So I think after everything we've heard here today, that everyone's really foreseeing some type of growth, whether we open it up to 30 or maybe just open it up to 15 or 20. Whichever way we go, I think that everyone wants to see something happen with this. And I think it's really good for the community, for all those who want to stop into a restaurant, for all those who want to stop at a taco truck, for all those who want to keep their business in series. It really provides a solution to all those things. I know at the end of the day, we all have our designated food spots. Some of us will go to Keys for the tacos and the burritos. I myself am guilty of that. I go there. But being able to provide more growth in series is pretty much the ultimate goal for everyone who comes to these meetings. And I think that that was well heard tonight. So I just wanted to emphasize that and give you my opinion. So thank you guys for hearing me out.
Thank you, Irene. Is there anybody else before we close it? Any more hands raised? Okay, the public period is now closed. We bring this back to the council for discussion. Council members, any comments and or questions? And let me see, I have Mr. Martinez, go ahead, sir.
There had been mention of a roster of people for a committee that had already been put together. Can we hear those names?
Yeah, well, anybody else have any other questions? Well, we could make some recommendations. Doug, you said you had some recommendations for this committee that we're referring to? No, not yet. We're just discussing.
So the committee member, one is, I believe, Johnny Chavez is on the committee, where our recommendation would be also for Nelson Gomez and Renee Ledbetter would be the.
Those are some of the
people.
recommendations.
Some of the recommendations, and then two council members also sit on the.
I would like
committee.
to entertain a motion in conjunction to what you're referencing there. And my motion is, make sure I get this right. Go ahead, sir, if you have, yeah, go ahead, sir.
Excuse me, I have a question related to the committee. So I think the committee is a great idea. So are we talking about tabling this agenda item in lieu of building this committee, looking into this further, and then bringing the agenda item back? That's my question. I think that's a reasonable,
sir,
I think it's a reasonable solution for where we are at right now.
Well, I think it's a lot, I mean, this was a pilot program and it's a lot bigger than I think than we anticipated, and it's grown. And so our recommendation was basically that we'd form this committee to invest, bring forward some ideas that are equitable and fair to all citizens of the city of Ceres, that we can make recommendations to the council to move it forward with an ordinance change and changes in some of the ideas that Christopher had brought forward, but have the committee look at all the avenues to bring it back to the council or the table everything with the.
So my interpretation is table it in lieu of the committee at this point.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, so my motion covers a little bit of both things. So My motion is to approve staff recommendations to remove the 10 cap limit on the food trucks and create the Food Vendors Committee and appointments of the public members, 2 city council members appointed by the mayor and committees, approved by the council, and adding a code enforcement officer as well. My recommendations for the committee would be Rosalinda and Mr. Martinez. That's my motion. Looking for a second.
I'll second.
Can we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Casey,
No.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
No.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes 3-0 or 3-2.
Congratulations. The cap has been lifted, but we now have to discuss how this committee will look. My recommendation was both Martinez and Ms. Rosalinda to discuss further.
Hang on.
Mayor, a point of clarification.
Yes.
The motion that was made and taken, a vote was taken for was to create the committee based off of the interim city manager's statement. It would be to further explore options for an ordinance. The action did not include introduction of the ordinance itself.
No,
And
no, that was for clarification. My motion was to lift the cap so that way those who want to apply for a conditional use permit to begin the process, but we still are forming a committee to further discuss some further details. And that would also include, not to mention, we can open up this, there were some suggestions about food vendors and sidewalk vendors. We can create an ordinance that we do not have. Currently, we only rely on the state of California for sidewalk vendors. So this conversation can be carried with this committee and they can have also some recommendations. They can add some recommendations to those items.
can we have the city clerk confirm? I may have missed that, but I did not hear that as part of the motion.
The motion was,
hear
the motion
what
was
part of
to,
the Motion,
I'm sorry.
what part of the motion are you
The,
wanting?
the first one to lift the cap. The motion that I heard was for the creation of a committee. But if the motion did include lifting of the cap, then.
Yes.
Motion that Mayor Lopez stated did include lifting the cap of 10 food trucks.
So with that clarification, the ordinance that is currently in place or that's been proposed discusses lifting of the cap. Is the cap currently codified in the current municipal code? I'd have to ask staff.
The limit of 10 is currently in our itinerant standards, which is a policy document that we've been working off of since the inception of the pilot program.
So with lifting of the cap, then I want for the council to understand then just lifting the cap, the current rule will still apply without a cap until the council introduces an ordinance to establish regulations.
and as so that time being, there is applicants can apply, correct?
Lifting
Yes.
of the cap, the applicants can apply under the current regulations.
Correct.
I'd like to ask a point of clarification. Since part of this is in policy and part of it's in the code, how does it work with the first and second reading and the 30-day before it becomes active and
The motion did not include first reading of the ordinance. The motion, from what I understand, was 2 parts. 1, lifting the cap. 2, establishing the committee to formulate potentially a revision to an ordinance for council consideration at a later point. So by the action that was taken tonight, the cap has been lifted, but the rest of the rules still remain in place. The ordinance that is included in the staff report tonight will not move forward tonight because there was not a motion to introduce this ordinance.
The goal of the committee is to go ahead and have these gentlemen who are here today, and I don't know if Renee is here today or not, have further discussion on not just specifically on food trucks, on some of the other issues that will be coming forward to the city council, and that is sidewalk vendors and food vendors, so we can once and for all have an ordinance, which will also include these items that are here today, which is 1 through 10. The purpose behind lifting the cap is to give those applicants an opportunity to start the process. This is just the first reading, correct? So we have another reading, correct?
Mayor, no, the motion that was made and voted on was to lift a cap independent of the ordinance and for the creation of a committee. So tonight, the action that has been taken so far does not include any action on the ordinance as presented.
And
It's
as the-
just to lift a cap.
And is the portion, as I said, motion to approve the staff recommendations and as to remove the cap? Is that not clarification for staff recommendations on this item?
I don't recall there was quite a bit stated.
It is the will of the council that we have a committee, correct?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just for my clarification, Mr. Holmes, in his presentation of this public meeting, suggested that a committee be formed and that that committee come back to us for a final vote. So, and Madam Attorney, what just passed is saying that there's no limit and that there's a committee to be formed to see what the limit should be. Is that what we just voted on?
That's why I'm asking clarification myself, because what I heard was now with the city clerk clarifying, the motion was two parts: to lift a cap and for a committee to be formed. If it's the council's will to lift the cap as part and introduce the ordinance that was included in the agenda packet tonight, then my recommendation would be for the council to make a motion for introduction and first reading of the ordinance, so that we're clear procedurally that that's the will of the council. So as of right now, it's a motion to lift the cap and form a committee. But what will happen is if you lift the cap, because it is not codified in the municipal code, you can lift the cap. Any applicants who wish to obtain approval for a mobile food vendor business tomorrow will still fall under the current regulations that are in place.
Or so the motion that just passed, if it is put in place, the city staff is obligated to lift the gap, the limit, and then this committee is going to be formed to decide what, because that's what I don't understand.
So how about this? So in light of this new information, I will redo the motion to include your clarification for the staff recommendations of everything on this item.
Mayor,
But you want me to specifically say it a certain way, so that way it references this ordinance change.
if that's the council's wish, if it's the mayor's wish to introduce for first reading this ordinance so that you can move forward with approving this at the
Yes,
next
that is-
meeting.
That is my motion.
And
Yes.
then yes, if you can please have a motion to reopen this item, because there's
Yes,
been
so-
a motion
okay,
made.
so I have a motion to reopen this item. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
I have a question before we vote. First reading doesn't mean that we are accepting this resolution as written, correct?
The ordinance, correct.
Yep.
So an ordinance, in order for an ordinance to become effective, it needs to go through two steps: introduction and first reading at a public hearing. There was a public hearing scheduled for tonight, so this is scheduled for first reading. It will come back to the council for second reading and adoption at a later meeting. If the council adopts it at that point, then it becomes effective 30 days thereafter. As of right now, there is not a motion for introduction and first reading. If I can have the city clerk confirm that, because I didn't hear that. It's part of the.
That is
Which is fine,
confirmed.
which is fine. It's understandable. So I have a motion and a second. Do you have any other questions, Mr. Vice Mayor?
Madam Attorney,
So
can I clarify something real quick? So if she passes the first reading tonight, is there a time limit we have to bring back the second meeting?
There is not a time limit in which you have to bring it back. The only limitation is you cannot adopt an ordinance at a special meeting, and you cannot adopt it within 5 days of introduction. Those are the only limitations. So if it's the council's wish to introduce it for first reading, again, if the council wishes to change the ordinance language, you will have to renotice it anyways.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Can I get the first and second again, please?
Motion. Second. This is to open it back up again.
This is to reopen. the
To reopen it back up
previous
again, yes.
Motion. Councilmember Casey,
Please read the motion back to me.
to lift the 10, that cap
So
of
this is to
10.
reopen it first before we go to
This
that.
current motion is to reopen the item.
To reopen, so we can talk about it. Casey, just to
So they're
reopen, it, so we can get
reopening the
clarification.
previous motion.
I'm sorry, there's too many people talking.
They're voting right now to reopen the previous motion that was made and to reconsider.
We're removing the previous motion to be reconsidered.
Correct. The
And we're
previous,
not voting to lift the limit. We're not voting on anything. We're just,
no,
right, this motion is to rescind the motion that just passed.
correct.
Aye.
Councilmember Vieira,
Aye.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez.
Yes. Now that it's opened up again, my motion is specifically, Ms. Nubia, if you can specifically tell me what is the motion, what is that portion that is required so that we can move on with the first reading?
Is it the mayor's wish to introduce the ordinance as written for first reading?
Yes, including the creating of the committees and appointments of public members.
Okay, then the motion would be for first reading and introduction of the ordinance and for the creation of a mobile food, well, of a committee
Correct.
to advise the city council on the enumerated issues as mentioned by the
Correct. That
mayor.
is my motion. Take it a second.
So since it's changed, I have some comments before we move forward with the motion.
Go ahead.
Might as well be now. So as other things I've done in this city, I normally do my due diligence and research. So coming from the citizens and constituents that I've talked to around the city of Ceres, first of all, I asked the question of the city staff and previous city manager on how this topic was placed on the agenda originally and never got a straight answer. There was never even a conversation about it was placed on a previous agenda, and I just don't believe we should do business that way. I've spoken to dozens and dozens of residents, and this is just not my opinion, dozens and dozens of residents, and not one person that I've spoken to supports the idea of more food trucks in Ceres, unless it's in a Grubhub style environment that we've talked about. Not one person. Obviously I'm talking to different people than the people that have spoke, but I have not talked to one person that I would consider a constituent or a citizen here in Ceres that supports more food trucks and this resolution. Everyone to a person agreed that the tables, chairs, and canopies could be an eyesore and a nuisance. And the only way that would ever be approved, should be approved, is if there were a consistent plan for what they should be look like developed by the city and the city staff. They all should all be the same and look the same. They all said that we have other cities, neighboring cities from Ceres that have their main thoroughfares just lined and lined with food trucks and vendors. And the people that I talked to had no interest in that. And Hatch and Mitchell and Whitmore looking like that. We basically have every type of food in Ceres, an option in Ceres now, and allowing the limit of the food vendor to be lifted is not really fair to those who have businesses already. We're not big enough for 30 or 40 or 50 food trucks in Ceres. The word monopoly has been used to describe the food truck vendor program we have now. If we raise it, it's going to make more of a monopoly. Just think about that. How are we going to collect taxes on 30 or 40 or 50 food trucks now? I know it's very difficult to collect them now. Staff states that with the 10 vendor limit, the staff spends a lot of time on this subject. Just think if we take the limit of vendors away, an unimaginable amount of time will be spent on the very task that they mentioned now. Think about that. everything that Mr. Holm has said, multiply that by 3 or 4 or 5 times in the amount of city staff time that it's going to take to raise it. Because the information I have and have gathered from the citizens, the only way that I can support an increase in mobile food vendors in our city is if it would properly owned and considered going with a Grubhub style mobile food vendor area. That must include paving, sidewalks, permanent shade truck structures, tables, lighting, secured fencing, and security during open hours. I'm hesitant, but that model should be considered. It's obvious that's what most people here in Ceres, the ones that have spoken tonight and the dozens that I've spoken to have agreed to. I can support that. I have nothing else to say other than I went out into the community as much as possible as soon as we started talking about this, and I have not spoken to one person, believe it or not one person that thought we should increase the amount of food vendors unless we can come up with somewhere for a Grubhub style. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a first and a second.
I'll second the mayor's motion.
Second who? My motion? Can we get a roll call?
Councilmember Casey.
So what is this motion?
This motion is to introduce the first reading of the ordinance as it's listed in the agenda packet and to establish a committee.
I have a question to the staff. What revenue does a taco mobile
Or any food truck doesn't have
what
to be
kind of
tacos.
revenue does it generate to the city? Besides permitting?
I would have to do an analysis on that.
Okay, so
Well, before I vote, I just wanted to say that I have plenty of people that love to go to taco, street tacos, whatever you want to call them, they love to go. But like Vice Mayor, people that have approached me voluntarily, I haven't gone and asked any questions. Without exception, they're not necessarily in favor of this. I'm voting no.
thanks, sir.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
No,
Mayor Lopez.
Yes,
This is 3-2.
thank you very much. Congratulations. And if Doug, if you could please, round of applause, thank you. This is huge for the city of Ceres. If you can get some information and if before our next meeting about the committee and get the information from the persons that are here today, I would really appreciate that. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here and for all those who were for it and for those who were against it. Thank you very much for attending our city council meetings. At this point, it's 8:23. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Those that need to use the restroom. Microphones back on. If everybody can please be seated so we can start the meeting up again. Yes, ma'am. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Moving on to new business. Resolution number 20, I keep saying resolution number 2023, but it's the same thing. Accepting the 2022-23 military equipment annual report and approving the military equipment funding, acquisition, and use policy. Mr. Collins?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. On September 30th, 2021, Assembly Bill 481 required law enforcement agencies to adopt a military equipment use policy by ordinance. The police department complied with AB 481 and the city council adopted ordinance number 1073 on November 7th, 2022. AB 481 also requires law enforcement agencies to submit to the council an annual report that includes everything that is listed in the staff report. In addition, the police department is required to post this report on our website 30 days in advance of the meeting that we're having tonight. That was done June 14th, 2023. AB 481 further requires the governing body to annually review any ordinance it has adopted approving the funding, acquisition, or use of military equipment. The governing body must also vote on whether to renew or not renew the authorizing ordinance, disapprove authorization for equipment where standards have not been met, or require modifications to the military use policy based on whether the equipment detailed within the annual report complies with the policy and meets standards in the government code. Reason why we are asking you to accept this is AB 481 was introduced to increase transparency and accountability for the funding, acquisition, and the use of military equipment by state or local law enforcement agencies. AB 481 requires City Council to annually review this report and renew ordinances 22-1073. Like I said, this report was posted on our website June 14th, 2023, and I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. I take this back to the public. Is there any comments or questions on this item? Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Debbie Martinez. I know that this doesn't have to do, Chief, you and I work well together. I look forward to your new chief coming on board. But when we talk about military, it's kind of a touchy subject for me because Vice Mayor, you do research. I'd like you to research the bogus military school that sits next to the federal post office. It's not being, it's not a program that's suitable for our children. And Chief Collins, my question to you would be, there at that military school, is there a gang list coming out of it? And if there is, I'd like it. So I'm not sure. We can talk on a lighter note. I'd just like to go on record with that.
I'm not sure I heard your question. What kind of list?
Gang list.
Yeah, we can talk about that offline.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to make a comment? Mr. Yeakley?
I have no problem with that particular item that's on the list there for military equipment. This lady that just left, I don't think she knows what that school is about. She thinks, from her wordage, it sounds like she thinks it's some kind of military, thing to indoctrinate kids. It's not. I've been in there. I drove by there. When it first opened up, I was curious what goes on there. That is for kids that have problems. They come from usually juvenile court and they're in this program. If they don't abide by the rules, they're sent back to the judicial system for the juvenile court. And I guess they serve a sentence or something like that, but they're kicked out and they can't come back. They're very regimented there. They seem to know what they're doing. And I didn't ask the numbers of what people, the young men and women there, kids that passed the mustard and become good citizens after that. But it's a good program. I think it's great. I think anybody here that wants to stop there someday and walk inside and ask them how it operates, they'll be more than happy to talk to you on that. But it's not a military school that has things that look like it because they're all regimented, and that's what you have to do to train people sometimes. And, but it's a good program.
Thanks, sir. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
There are no hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, bring this back to the council for a motion or any actual comments or questions first. Comments or questions?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2023 next in line.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to item number 15, approving an amendment to the department head employment agreement and authorize the interim city manager to execute the agreements. This goes to the city manager.
Mr. Mayor and council members, this is basically a cleanup resolution for all the department head agreements. What it boils down to is right now, the department heads, all they can do or all they're allowed to do is 100% of their sick leave upon retirement is sent to a retirement health fund, and that is it. What they want is parity with the mid managers, and which boils down to they have three options. One's being paid out or any portion of the retirement cash out amount. Number two, contributing all or any portion of the retirement cash out amount to a retiree health savings, or three, contributing all or any portion of the retirement cash out amount to a deferred compensation account, or any combination thereof. And so that's what the department head, this is just a cleanup resolution that Delilah and I came up with.
Microphone was off. Sorry about that. Is that it, sir? We're going to take this back to the public. If there's any comments or questions from the public. Seeing none, I don't see anybody on Zoom. Bring this back to the council for discussion and or comments and questions.
Move to approve number 15 under new business.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Casey,
Yes.
Councilmember Vieira,
Yes.
Councilmember Martinez,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Silvera,
Yes.
Mayor Lopez,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Moving on to discussion items. Being that it's almost 9 o'clock, I'm making a recommendation that the city council tables item number 16, city council rules and procedures, as to give us more time to look over this item. And I'm just looking for a nod of heads if we're okay with that. Mr. Casey, you okay with tabling this item number 16, which is council and procedures? Table? Table? Okay, look like so you have consensus. Any council member referrals? Seeing none, moving on to reports. I have nothing to report. City council members, have anything to report?
I do. Tomorrow's the last night of concerts in the park for 2023. Local band going to perform along with sponsored by Alfonso's. So it's been a great year. The weather's been really nice to us. 1 week was pretty hot. It's supposed to actually start cooling down this week. So come on out from 6:30 to 8:30, have something to eat, have something to drink, and listen to Levon and the Trainwreck. Thanks.
Mr. Martinez, did he steal your thunder?
He did. I was gonna mention that tomorrow was the last one and Brett got me.
Okay, we'll all be there. All right, moving on, city manager, you have anything to report, sir?
I have nothing to report, sir.
Okay, city attorney,
Nothing to report tonight.
and any of the department heads have anything to report? And this time I'll make sure there's nobody from the state or feds here, seeing none. Okay, so we will now adjourn this meeting and go to closed session for conference reading and public employment performance evaluation. Government Section Code 54957. The city manager, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak regarding to this closed session item? After the closed session, I will return out to report. Okay, meeting is now adjourned. Reminds me like this, like your face. Welcome back, everyone. Direction has been provided to staff. Have a wonderful evening.